charging you a lot of money कि how to be a storyteller.
Everything that we learn from life is through stories. In fact, stories are the things that stay with us for the longest time. Even if I were to ask you to describe your own life, however difficult the situation you are in, whatever the rules or the conditions which are against you. So I think stories give you real inspirational nuggets when it comes to solving problems in your life, be they in business or in any other field. Literally, I think the expression food for thought, because we consume stories right from the time we were cave people, right? There used to be paintings in caves about the hunt of the day and things like that.
So you think this should be applied for everybody who wants to grow themselves? When you're creating your brand, your story should be put across as per the times?
Every person has a story. It's always the question you should ask yourself is, what's my once upon a time?
What's my once upon a
What's
time?
my once upon a time? One of the biggest barriers we have in creativity is our own belief that we are not creative. मेरे से तो नहीं होगा. There's a great quote by Pablo Picasso, which is, every child is born an artist. The challenge is to remain one as we grow up.
Tell me more about it. Storytelling is not about entertainment. It's about transmission. Stories shape human consciousness. This is what Sadhguru says. So for me, today's guest is someone who doesn't just tell stories. He lives them, breathes them, and helps others find theirs. He brings together cricket, cinema, mythology, and branding, all through the powerful art of narration. He's an author, a creative evangelist, and a trainer of storytellers. His books, Lessons from the Playground, Sportivity, and that all starts in a very beautiful way. Here, we've got a new book called Breakup Bhavani. So let's dive into the world of storytelling and learning how to tell stories with one and only Vinay Kanchan. Vinay Kanchan with us tonight. I don't know what to say. Storytelling is his forte and he makes things happen. Vinay ji, how are you, sir?
I'm very well.
And good to hear and interesting to know what you do. You know, a lot of people nowadays, I feel, are getting into the storytelling of how they can tell their own story and all that. And there are people who are charging you a lot of money how to be a storyteller. You've been there, done it. Tell me more about it.
I don't know whether I'm already done it. I mean, always, I consider myself very much a work in progress. But I believe stories are the fundamental building blocks of human civilization itself. Everything that we learn from life is through stories. In fact, stories are the things that stay with us for the longest time. Even if I were to ask you to describe your own life, after a while you'll realize it's nothing more or nothing less than a collection of interesting stories. Right? So I developed this sensitivity to stories at a very young age. I loved being around stories, collecting stories, analyzing them, and looking at them with a different lens as compared to probably the way somebody else would look at it. So that set me off on a journey where I wanted to look at stories as a powerful tool to inspire thinking. Let me just illustrate with one interesting story I have, which is not very well known, which is that from the life of King Harshvardhan. And this is a point in time where King Harshvardhan is looking to overcome a lot of his enemies. So there is a big battle which is going to happen. And they're all getting ready for the battle. At that point in time, his royal seal falls on the ground.
Achha.
Right? And at वो समय पे ना उसको अपशगुन माना जाता था. That,
Achha.
Just before going for war, if your seal falls on the ground, it means you're going to fall, you're going to be defeated. But what he does is he quickly thinks and he reinterprets the situation and he announces to all the soldiers that, you know what this is? It's God telling us that the whole earth is ours. So we are going to win this battle, right? And that completely recontextualizes a calamity as something which can be successful.
It
right?
changes the perception.
Absolutely. So, you will find a story for everything, for every situation in your life. You'll possibly find a story. And this is a great example when you're talking in business circles, and you're trying to tell people that even if there is something which is bad which has happened, yes, you can turn it around. It makes the point so much more better,
Hmm.
right? And this is a story, let's say, which is not very much heard. I mean, few people have heard the story, but even stories which you have heard 100 times before, there is always an opportunity to recast them in a different way. For instance, one of the stories which always inspires me as a student of creative thinking is the Samudra Manthan.
Ah.
And I use that as a metaphor for the process of brainstorming.
Hmm.
So, what is the Samudra Manthan? The Devas and the Asuras, they are on opposite sides,
Hmm.
but they are trying to solve the same problem, which is they want to uncover nectar.
Hmm.
So, they are working together.
Hmm.
So, likewise, even when you're doing brainstorming in any business scenario, always have opposing forces come together. Always have people who are at loggerheads with each other, otherwise, come together and try and thrash things out. The second interesting thing in Samudra Manthan is they don't get nectar immediately.
Hmm.
They initially go through a whole list of things which emerge, which are interesting, but it's not what they want. For instance, there are apsaras which come out. There is this wish fulfilling cow, Kamadhenu, which comes out. A wish fulfilling tree, Kalpa Vriksha, a white elephant, Airavat. Even poison, Halahal also comes out at the same time.
Hmm.
And then somewhere down the line, they find nectar. Likewise, when you're ideating in a group,
Hmm.
lot of ideas will emerge. Okay, they might not be what you're looking for, but that does not mean they don't have value. Now, each of these things has value in itself.
Hmm.
Anybody would want a wish fulfilling cow or a wish fulfilling tree, but it's just not what you're looking for at that point in time, right? So to get to where you want to get, you have to go through a lot of iteration. You have to go through a lot of other things which might emerge, and don't discard those things. Keep them somewhere, because even those things might have value in a different context and at a later date,
Hmm.
right? So Samudra Manthan is a story we have all heard, but if you look at it through a different lens, it gives you different learning. And just to complete the circle, I'll just illustrate one more story, again from Indian mythology, which I'm particularly inspired by. And this is about the fifth or the fourth avatar of Lord Vishnu, which is Narsimha.
Hmm.
So Narsimha comes to be because there is this demon king called Hiranyakashipu,
Hmm.
who cannot be defeated. And he has these impossible to defeat boons.
Hmm.
So he can't be defeated by either a man or an animal. He can't be defeated in the sky or on the ground, in the day or in the night, inside his house or outside his house. So what does Lord Vishnu do? He creates what I call the first juxtaposition or mashup in the world,
Ah,
right?
okay.
Narsimha is not fully lion nor fully man. It's a combination of both of those two things, right?
Hmm.
He kills him in twilight,
Hmm.
neither day nor night.
Hmm.
He puts him on his lap and he kills him, neither in the sky nor on the ground. He kills him at the threshold of his house, neither inside nor outside. Right? So, however difficult the situation you are in, whatever the rules or the conditions which are against you, there is always a loophole. There is always a loophole you can find and exploit to conquer the situation. So, I think stories give you real inspirational nuggets when it comes to solving problems in your life, be they in business or in any other field.
I totally get it. So, what I've realized the way you're telling a story right now to me, you're blending Indian culture along with the creativity, the way you're putting it together. You created a very different feel to this, like you flowed from the Indian earlier culture to the present day modern way of thinking also, where we have to solve problems and we are confused with it. So as a personal spark hidden from the mainstream which you have, where do you kind of get this kind of ideas? Do you keep reinventing yourself whenever you kind of put the story across?
So I try and look at a story from all different angles.
Hmm.
I look at a story and I try and ask myself, what else is this telling me?
Hmm.
There are various ways to look at any situation.
Hmm.
And if you apply another perspective, or if you ask yourself the right question, you'll always find something relevant in the story to draw from. For example, the question I ask myself whenever I look at a story from Indian culture is, how does this help me in my work today?
Hmm.
How can I use this as an example of something which is a real world problem?
Hmm.
Now, we live in a time where you get a lot of data, a lot of numbers,
Hmm.
right? But I am somebody who has always believed that it's not the quantum of the numbers which matters, it's the quality of the numbers which matters. And there's a beautiful story from the Mahabharata which really illustrates this point. So Duryodhan goes to Bhishma
Hmm.
and he asks him to be the commander of the Kaurav army.
Hmm.
And Bhishma is torn. He has always loved the Pandavas equally as he loves the Kauravas. And he actually has a very soft spot for Arjun in all of this. And he does not want to really fight the battle. So he kind of negotiates an agreement. He says, I will fight from you for you as the commander of your armies, and I will kill 10,000 soldiers every day.
Hmm.
But I will not kill any of the Pandavas. Now that's an interesting point he makes, because what anybody who has read the Mahabharata will realize that it's not those 10,000 warriors which matter as much as the quality of an Arjuna or a Bhima or a Yudhishthir or a Nakul or a Sahadev, which would have made a difference to the outcome of the war. In a way, he has dictated the outcome of the war right at the beginning, because
Hmm.
Bhishma is pretty much an invincible warrior. So you will find examples like that, which only if you look at, and if you relook at, not just look at, relook at, and see what context does it apply to in today's day and time, how is it relevant in the modern world, that you find that there is so much that you can draw from.
Hmm. You use cricket, cinema, and Indian tales to build narratives.
Yes.
Now, why do these resonate deeply with our people, the audiences across age, class, or culture? Uh, Mass memory meets emotion, what I would say.
Right.
Why does it work so well?
So that's an interesting question. And it's a question I often ask myself, because I am always in awe of the power of stories. And just to add something, it's not just cricket. I try and look at all sport. I'm a bit of a sporting nut. So
Hmm.
sport, cinema, and mythology, Indian culture is probably where I draw my maximum number of stories from. In fact, just to you made an interesting point about where do you see the gaps in things like that. We looked at how Narsima
Hmm.
looked at the gap which
Hmm.
was there.
Hmm.
But if you look at cricket, the whole thing about sledging,
Hmm.
the sledging comes from looking at the gaps in the rule book of cricket,
Hmm.
because nowhere does it say thou shall not sledge.
Ah, okay.
Right? So people started doing it, and because the empires really couldn't do anything about it, it became a subculture in itself. In fact, sledges, and we can get into that later on, there are legendary sledges which even today bring you a smile. Okay.
So they kind of learn these strategies, huh?
Yeah, so once they find, see, how do we learn what is acceptable? We push the barriers and the boundaries.
Ah.
And once you find that there is no pushback happening here, you go further.
Hmm.
So the first person who sledged, he realized that now nobody was stopping him. He also realized that there was an advantage to be gained,
Hmm.
because the batsman was getting a little psychologically disturbed
Hmm.
by that, right? And so he continued, and sledging continued as a, let's say, part of the subculture of cricket,
Hmm.
right? But coming back to why do these things resonate so much with you, it's a fundamental thing, because it's of the power of stories. Now you're a very fit man, and I think in today's day and time, a lot of us think about what's the diet we should be on. I know I should definitely be on one, but that's a question which plagues many people. What's the ideal diet? However, since the start of human civilization, there's one diet we have always been on without realizing it. We have been on a diet of stories. We have been fed stories. Literally, I think the expression food for thought comes from that, because we consume stories right from the time we were cave people, right? There used to be paintings in caves about the hunt of the day and things like that. We have always felt the need to tell stories because we wanted to communicate things, we wanted to pass on lessons and information, right? Stories are our virtual reality experiences much before that term even existed anywhere, right? So because why are stories so powerful? Because even in today's time, when somebody is reading the Mahabharata or the Ramayana, he or she puts themselves in that situation. It's a story is a time travel device, and it's a space travel
So
device
well
as well.
put, time travel device.
Absolutely. So you take yourself back into that time, and you put yourself in Lord Rama's shoes, and try and understand what it might feel like when you're told to you have to give up your kingdom and go to the forest, right? You feel it personally. Magical ability to touch you at an emotional level, and that is why they will always work. It's not just now; they will work to the end of time, as long as there is something about us which is human.
So can a story kind of truly alter the trajectory of brand or a life? Have you witnessed or created a narrative so powerful that it changed everything?
Uh, I have an interesting brand example for that.
Hmm.
And it's a brand which I must confess I haven't worked on, but I have looked at with admiration from afar. Okay.
So you'll have to tell me a story about it,
Yes,
like
very
how.
much. So if you see Surf Excel,
Uh-huh.
Surf Excel was competing in the detergent category in our country,
Acha.
right? And all the previous stories about Surf Excel were about knocking dirt out. So they used to have ingredients like dirt blasters and superior enzymes and whatever nonsense, right? Typically, you used to see visuals in detergent category of two muscular arms, really squeezing
was
the
the
life, yes, out of a shirt, and there's a transparent bucket. It was nonsense going on. Until one day, Surf Excel decided to take a look at the larger picture. And they said, we are not in the business of just cleaning clothes. We are there to help mothers ensure that their children grow up the right way by not bothering about whether they are getting their clothes dirty, which means we are giving them the license to participate in the world, right?
Oh, you think this should be applied for everybody who wants to grow themselves? When you're creating your brand, your story should be put across as per the times, like advocate that.
Every person has a story. Okay. It's always the question you should ask yourself is, what's my once upon a time?
What's
Right?
my once upon a
What's my
time?
once upon a time? So when you start thinking like that, the first thing to do is, how is my story different from the others, right? If we try and cater too much to the changing time, you might lose sight of what your story actually is. I always advocate, try and be true to whoever you are. If what you are offering has uniqueness, then you will be successful. Best case in point I can think of is Harry Potter books. When J.K. Rowling released, she was turned down by 13 publishers. And the reasons they gave her was, children are not reading anymore. And they will never read such a thick book, right? But she felt she had a story to tell, and it required that those many amount of words and that amount of pages, right? She stuck to her guns. She went against the tide, and because she had something genuinely different and of value to the world, I think she is where she is. So it's interesting that, sticking to what you really believe in, and what you feel your calling is, I think takes you much further.
Lot of creative sessions around the country, and you teach people about how to be creative, how to tell a story, what are the myths which are there, which people usually carry, and you think that should be busted? This is not how it works. You kind of burst those kind of myths also, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is the one?
Biggest one I like to bust is the fact that only some people are creative. Okay. And we believe that, many people believe that creativity is a boon given to only a few people. And I can't express this strongly enough. That is far from the truth. It's just that our creative ability is slightly in different areas. So, like yours is in dance, mine might be in playing with words. So we both are creative in different ways, but we are creative. We look at things differently in the zone of our comfort. Dance is comfortable for you. You will come up with new dance choreographies, right? Writing is comfortable for me. I feel it's my home ground, so I will come up with new stories, new ideas, things like that, right? Everyone is creative, and the way to break this myth is actually to take them back in time and ask them about their childhood, and ask, was there anything they ever did which was creative? And you'll find that everybody has a story to tell. मैंने कुछ अलग इधर किया था. I did something which when I look back at it today, I can't even think I could have thought that way, right? When we are children, we are all very creative.
You'll call it a hack to get back to childhood and doing things differently?
I would always encourage that, because returning to a childhood is a very personal experience. It's also a source of personal inspiration, because what you did as a child, somebody else would not have done the same thing as a child. So you can always say, मैंने ये किया, right? It's a sense of personal achievement and confidence. If I could do it then, I can do it now as well, right? And the second thing which is very important in a childlike mindset is, when we are children, we are less judgmental about our ideas. One of the biggest barriers we have in creativity is our own belief that we are not creative. मेरे से तो नहीं होगा, right? This is the common thing we come across. But that's the voice, that's the biggest critic you have to silence, the one within. Okay, and when you go back to your childhood, you realize, I used to do so many things differently. There's a great quote by Pablo Picasso, which is, every child is born an artist. It's a challenge. The challenge is to remain one as we grow up. Because we get educated out of creativity, right? We are taught there is a right answer and a wrong answer. We look at things in a very linear way. We stop looking outside the window. And that's when I think we become less creative. So that's the biggest myth I try to bust, that you are not creative. Yes, you are. It might just be in a different area, but you definitely have the ability to think differently.
So memories is one thing which you advocate. How important is observation in storytelling? And more importantly, how can anyone train their eye to truly see stories in their life, people around, and how does it help you to create a story which can resonate with everybody? It's like I want to teach the listeners here, this can be a daily habit for you to sharpen yourself.
Sure.
In their creative lens.
So that's a very right point. Observation is the crux of storytelling, and I will nuance it slightly.
Okay.
There's a term we use in advertising, in brand building, in creative thinking, which is called an insight. An insight is that observation which looks at that, once you have it, you look at that whole problem very differently. Now, again, let me illustrate this with a story from Indian history. So this is the time of Tenali Ram. And at one time, there's a scholar who comes to Vijayanagara, where is the kingdom of where Tenali Ram used to be, at that court of, I think, King Krishna Deva Raya. And he throws a challenge down to King Krishna Deva Raya, saying, I am very skilled in many languages. I challenge all the scholars in your kingdom to try and figure out what is my mother tongue. And it's an interesting challenge, and everybody tries it. All the elite scholars from that kingdom try it, and they fail, because that man is equally adept in 20, 30 languages, and there's no way they can know. And Tenali Ram is the last man remaining. And Krishna Deva Raya knows he's not a scholar, but he looks at things differently. He's an unconventional scholar in that way. So he goes to Tenali Ram and says, "Abhi apni kingdom ki laaj aapke haath mein hai, kuch to karo." So Tenali Ram very slyly goes up and sits next to this guy. And when he's not suspecting it at all, he pricks him on his toe with a needle. And immediately that fellow barks out something in his mother tongue. Now, why is this such a brilliant example of observation? Because it works at a deeply insightful level. It is when all your guards are down and when you are in real pain, that's when your mother tongue comes out. Right? So that is observation, and that is a layer looking deeper into observation, which is insight. Right? So insight is something which is at the foundation of storytelling. Example, Three Idiots, the movie. Why is it so popular? It's not popular because everybody in India has gone to an engineering college. Actually, less than 2-3% of India would have been to an engineering college. But it is universally popular because everybody knows that there is a problem with our education system and we are not taught the right way. And that's an insight which spans the whole country. Right? So how do you become better at spotting these insights? Is you learn to start observing human behavior more minutely, and you start mentally filing away little notes. And those notes will come back and help you at some point in time. Pointless things also. You can start with small things and which are seemingly pointless. Like if you're in an elevator or aapko 10वें floor pe jana hai, or already you have seen that 10th floor button is glowing because somebody has pressed it. You will also go and press it, and you will see 5 other people also press that same thing. Right? At some level, that's completely irrational because you have seen that button pressed, but because we are human beings and we like to control things, we like to be in control, it makes us reach out and press that button. Right? So that little kind of observation like that and keeping on filing away those things helps you, create a bucket of insights for you.
You can build a story around these things also.
Absolutely. This is this observation which I told you can be a small skit on YouTube. Right? It's very easy to think of a comedic skit which has 2-3 characters where the button is pressed and they start fighting. Right?
You authored so many books. Which chapter, scene, or moment was the most difficult to write but left you changed after sharing it? You need to tell about your latest book also in that way. So here I'm focusing on Breakup Bhavani, aapka naya book jo hai, and what is it about? And what is the most difficult part of it which you feel, हाँ यार ये कैसा हुआ करके? I mean, I would call you seasoned in storytelling. Tell me more about it.
So, Breakup Bhavani, the legend of Breakup Bhavani, part 1, to give the full title it's due, is my 4th book.
Acha.
My first book was The Madness Starts at 9, which was a satire on office life through short stories. It was the result of me winning a nationwide blogging contest. My second book was Lessons from the Playground, which you can see here.
Right. And that's based on your real life stories, kind of.
No, so it is based on sporting exploits, inspiration from the sporting field, which is applicable to management, leadership, and creativity.
But there are some real life incidents also.
Yes, of course. Real life as in from the lives of great athletes.
Exactly.
I can get into that if you want later on. The third one was Sportivity, which was an airport sort of book. Lessons from the Playground is stocked across management college libraries in India and abroad. It is a reference book now. The third one is Sportivity, which is a short airport read sort of book, which looks at 10 techniques in creative thinking which I've observed from sport, which is an interesting book in itself to write. And now, just a few weeks in the making, is The Legend of Breakup Bhavani. It's a book which combines Indian culture with the world of superheroes in a very quirky, funny, irreverent manner. A lot of humor in it. Because I think that is one thing which makes all message deliverance much smoother. Right? So within this book, in any superhero genre, one of the high points in that storytelling is when the hero or the heroine comes forward or is revealed to the viewer or the reader for the very first time. So Breakup Bhavani was an interesting character, right? It was She is somebody who's sort of at this point in time, which I'm going to read about, nobody knows whether she's a real person or it's just a story, right? The reader does not know for sure for at this point in time. So I had to reveal her, but there were some conscious decisions I had taken up to that point. So in many ways, it's a satire on the genre of superheroes as well. And whenever most superheroes reveal themselves, they do it in a way कि दुनिया को बचा रहा है.
Mhm.
As most typified, let's say, by the manner in which Superman has been introduced in all the movies. In the first Christopher Reeve movie, he saves Lois Lane from falling from a skyscraper from a helicopter. In the reboot of Superman, it's even bigger, where he saves a jet from crashing into a stadium. It's very larger than life. And Breakup Bhavani came from this idea that we need superheroes who have more personal callings, who are more relevant in day to day life. So her calling is she teaches lessons to guys who break up badly with girls.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So it's a very relatable concept, right? So at this point in time, where before I begin reading this extract, what has happened is she has been introduced to one of the characters. She puts a request on the girl's common room mirror with the boy's roll number, and this guy who has broken up badly with her, is his name is actually Satyan, but I've shortened it to Satan, because every character in Breakup Bhavani has, every character's name has some weightage. Okay.
A touch of darkness or grey.
A touch of darkness alludes to the devil, but every character, like there is a one of the main characters is a girl called Gargi.
Acha.
And Gargi was an ancient Indian scholar, one of the first women scholars in our history, and she used to debate with men, and at a time where nobody could think that such a thing was allowed or could happen. So things like that, every name has a little weight. So Satan has come back after winning a cricket match for his college team, and he is in the men's changing room. And I thought in that very restricted area, it would be an interesting way to introduce this character, to take him on, because it can't get more private than that. And it can't get more antithetical to a superhero introduction than introducing that person in a closed room rather than in an open stadium and things like that. So if I have your permission, I'll just...
Yes, please. I mean, we have started off. Your stories are exciting me. So is this one of the difficult part which you think, which you are reading out right now, or?
Yes.
Yes.
So
why so?
As creativity, so it's because a lot of, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So a lot of the perception of the main character will be built on the way she is revealed to the world for the first time. Udhar agar impact bahut hai, then whatever else follows is a little easier, right?
So
that
you're going
was
to
the
give a
difficult
preview of your book from here on, please.
Yeah.
We'll love to hear this.
So at this point in time, he's showering. I'll just come to that. 1 second.
As in Satyan, as Satan is showering.
Satan. Yes.
Okay. This book is how many pages?
It's about 180 odd pages. I kept it deliberately at a shorter length because I think people get very antsy nowadays with longer lengths of books. Yeah. So he's bathing. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And there are some boys along with him in the changing room, and they are leaving because they're going out for a party. That's the background, because they have won a cricket match. Satan was bathing with a triumphant smile plastered on his face. Slowly he emerged from the shower, towel hastily draped over a pair of boxer briefs. Some instinct told him he should be getting out of there very quickly too. He stood next to the mirror, admiring himself, his perfectly chiseled frame, and that square jaw, which some smart girl he had once dated had told him was Euclidean in its shape, something which he had never bothered to look up. He always automatically assumed it was some European thing. Looking at himself always calmed him down. He was nearly getting back to his own self when, without warning, all the lights in the changing room went off. Cut it out, guys! I need to change, he barked, thinking one of his friends had lingered to pull a prank. Still, the darkness persisted. The door creaked open with a slightly sinister tone. It was too dark for Satan to see if anyone had entered. Then he began to hear a melodious humming, which was strange because it almost sounded like the cat had begun to sing, but in perfect tune, which was curious given that no cat had released an album yet.
Mm.
I said, cut it out, or else I will come out and beat the hell out of you, shouted Satan. A suspiciously new feeling was beginning to rise in his gut all the time. Then in the darkness, a beautifully feminine voice crooned, what's the matter, big boy? Scared of a little darkness? At that instant, one light came on, and under it she stood. What Satan saw was a curvaceously crafted woman, dressed in all black robes, her foot on the wash basin in front of the mirror, as she was strapping on her boots. Her hair was long and flowing, and her eyes were green. There was a whip casually dangling in her waist. Her face was masked in black, leaving a small area open, exposing her full toned cheeks and lips, and a smaller portion where her eyes were dazzling under the spotlight. Her hands were also adorned with black gloves. He noticed that as she finished tying her laces and stood to her full height, gloriously grand and perfectly poised. Satan's fear and uncertainty gave way to another, infinitely more primal feeling. He felt like the hunter again. He let out a low wolf whistle, which was bubbling forth with unconstitutional intentions. Man, what a peace! The mysterious woman turned to fully face him. He could make out that her face, though mostly covered by a mask, was probably very beautiful. Her hair was lustrous, dark, and seemed to have a life of its own. Satan had already imagined other anatomical areas in what was an astonishing surge of mental activity for him. She had a smirk on her face which exuded both an uncanny self confidence and a downright sense of contempt for the person in front of her. Satan had to admit he found all of that unbearably attractive. The mysterious woman looked at Satan in the eye and said, you never blow a wolf whistle when you are in the vicinity of a tigress. That's very stupid, not to mention very, very dangerous.
Wow. I was making a film inside my head. The way I see a touch of humor also, which you put through your stories. It's so interesting. Breakup Bhavani in the house now. Lovely. What inspired you to do this? Your childhood memories of superheroes?
So, interesting. The story of Breakup Bhavani is also interesting. I write a lot of columns uh, at various platforms in media, marketing, advertising, branding, or at all the leading platforms. And I once, after this superhero sort of wave had started in India, I once wrote an article called Vacancies for Superheroes, which is based on the premise that these people are saving the world or saving the universe, but mera jaan kaun bachayega, mera problem kaun solve karega, right? So it was from that premise, so I created. And when you name things using alliteration is nice, so I created characters like Download Dinesh, a guy who will help your computer download things faster, or Traffic Tina, somebody who will help you get through traffic jams faster, right? Or uh, excuse Ehsan, somebody will come up with better excuses when you want to bunk work. And in that series, I wrote these two words, Breakup Bhavani. And the moment I wrote it, it suddenly hit me that there is potential. And I'd written the basic description there that this is a woman, superheroine, who helps girls who have been broken up with badly, right? Because they are feeling down, they are psychologically scarred, and they need to have some sort of redemption. So she was their redemption. And that's where this word, those two words popped out. And then because I have a lot of Maharashtrian culture in me in many ways, and Bhavani is a very sacred name. It was a name which inspired, there was a goddess which inspired Shivaji, okay, the great Indian king, uh, so it was so central to his story. I think that gave me the cue that maybe I create an entire universe of Indian cultural names and cast them into this series. That's why there are characters in this story which are named Agastya,
Acha.
Gargi, Ramba, Urvashi, Tathagat, Appu Swami. All these names have some deeper resonance with our subconscious, basically. It's also based on this idea that all of our names come from some great past.
Yeah.
Most Indian names. But what if we actually had those qualities somewhere? Like this Professor Agastya has a unique relationship with water, right? Because Agastya swallowed the ocean. Okay. So he, like, if he throws a bottle, it comes back to him. Things like that. I just took that nuance and made it a little more fun.
So you made it relevant to the present time also.
Yes. So in fact, one of the fan generated content pieces which has happened already for Breakup Bhavani has said something like Mahabharata on a college campus, right? And I thought that was very flattering and nice to hear.
So that's so good there. I mean, storytelling, you feel everybody can do it.
Yes.
Right? Because you said creativity is within us. What is your most personal moment of struggle or self doubt which has happened in your life that later kind of revealed like your biggest creative breakthrough? I want to know the person behind the creativity, how
Sure.
vulnerable you have been, and what has inspired you to do this.
That's a very deep question. That what is a person? Because everybody has a personal struggle, and especially when you're embarking on a creative path, or let's say a path which is not standard, you will always have a lot of opposition coming your way. So interestingly, when I wrote my very first irreverent column, uh, it was the year 2003, I think. And the first comment I got was not very flattering or encouraging. It said that it's lucky you have a job in the corporate world because you'll never make it as a writer.
That was told to you.
That was written as a comment by I don't know who, because it was anonymous. But for a minute, it hit me. It felt bad for a minute. But then it also provoked me to look deeper at my own work. Was there something I could have done better? Okay, in the column that I had written. And sure enough, in the next column that I wrote, I found a fix, because what was happening was uh, it was getting too long. So the problem I identified was I needed something, a character which would help me shorten things and yet communicate powerfully. And out of that, now this is one of the columns which became part of the Madness Starts at 9, actually. Out of that problem or crisis was born this character called Chai La. Now, Chai La was a Chinese canteen tea boy, okay, who used to come deliver a couplet of wisdom in this Confucius style and just disappear dramatically. And it came from my insight that at most of the offices that I worked at, the canteen boys were really smart. Really smart. They knew everything that was happening around, and they were very insightful in terms of judging people, right? And it was coupled with another thing. I love tea, and I need tea whenever I'm writing or thinking. So those two things came together. It created Chaila, and Chaila was the reason I was able to win that blogging contest at sulekha.com,
Acha.
because that character became so popular. And I think it could have been bad, but what that taught me is that don't completely discount criticism. Maybe there is something there which you can work harder on, and use it always as a challenge. I can do better. The moment you stop feeling you can do better is, I think, when creativity dies. Whenever you feel, you still retain that feeling, इसमें और कुछ अच्छा हो सकता था, I could have articulated this sentence better. I could have constructed this scene better. I could have written a better positioning statement for the brand I'm working on, whatever. The moment you feel that feeling still going, or in my case also, I could have done this module in that workshop a little better. I could have added some flavor to that. The moment that feeling stops is when you stop growing. So I think taking on criticism and continuing relentlessly, it's very important to keep doing things despite the criticism. So you have to keep at it. It's not every time you fall up, you get up and go again.
So you spoke about your workshops. So in your workshop, there's always one exercise that kind of surprises a lot of people. What is that moment where you see minds opening up unexpectedly? Like, what is that thing we do? We want to like kind of discuss this part of you as a trainer, which you are also.
Yeah.
What is it about, and what are the moments which are created by this one particular exercise?
So, I call my sessions play shops
Acha.
rather than workshops. Okay?
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
creative again.
So the reason I do that is, and I begin with that right up front, is that I want to make thinking fun. Usually, whenever we as Indians, especially, whenever we are confronted with a workshop or a thinking activity, हम सोचते हैं कि दिमाग का दही होगा. Right? To use the best Mumbaiya phrase for it. Right? And that's because our schools and colleges have sort of taught us in this very pedantic manner, where it is very boring. Right? It's assignments, it's a ratta maro, it's, spill it out during the exam, forget all about it. Right? So nobody looks forward to a session with interest. They are not excited to come there. I first try to transform that mood in the room. I want to make it interesting. I am a person who's a big fan of laughter and humor. So I want to say it upfront that what you learn with a smile stays with you for the longest while. Okay, what you learn with a smile stays with you for the longest while. So that's because you will remember, even if you cast your mind back in school, जो मजा आया ना कुछ सीखने में, you'll still remember.
हमारे favorite teachers,
right?
मजा आता.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so emotional. The process of learning is so emotional, right? So there are 3 exercises I'll tell you which are really interesting, which really open up people's minds. The first is one I touched upon slightly before as well, which is tell me a story from your childhood where you did something creative. Or
that's
you
one
saw,
hack I would say.
or you saw somebody do something creative. And you will find it amazing, because when people step back, right, they come up with such brilliant stories. And these common stories of creativity are far better than the ones you will get in management books. Right? I'll give you one fantastic example. I was traveling to a workshop, and I always have this, or play shop as I should put it. And I always have this habit of engaging the Uber driver in a conversation, because it's interesting and they tell you different things. So he asked me, what do you do for a living? So I said, मैं लोगों को सोचना सिखाता हूँ. And he said, अरे क्या बात है साहब, मेरा भी एक प्रॉब्लम था लेकिन मैंने सॉल्व कर दिया. So I said, सॉल्व कर दिया, क्या प्रॉब्लम था? So he said, his wife's parents and his wife used to not treat his parents very well. Okay. And whatever he did, the scene was not changing. The situation was still as it is. तो फिर ना एक दिन मेरे को एक आइडिया आया. मैं वाइफ को फोन किया और बोला ना, सबको तैयार रख, हम लोग पिक्चर जा रहे हैं.
दोनों साइड को.
हाँ, दोनों साइड को, both families. So I asked him, कौन सा पिक्चर? He said, Nata Samrat. Okay, now if you know Marathi culture, you know what that movie is about, right? So I knew. So I asked him, पिक्चर के बाद क्या हुआ? तो he says, क्या बोलूं साहब, ऐसा लगा कि बिना हाथ उठाए मैंने सभी को तमाचा मारा. And that is creativity. He looked at his problem and he found an out of the box solution. It's a fantastic example, right? And I get stories like that all the time, where people dig a little deeper in their own experiences, right? So that's one exercise, which is recount a story from your childhood where you either did something creative yourself, or you saw somebody else do something creative. Okay. Or when I say creative, I mean kuch alag, kuch hatke. Right? The second thing I do is right at the beginning of most programs.
Mm.
I tell everybody to put down an object.
Mm.
Okay. And I tell everybody to pick up their object which they themselves have not put down.
Mm.
So you might have something like a pen in your hand, or you might have this cup, or you might have this book. Then I'll say, Kamlaksh, you're going to stand up and introduce yourself saying, hi, I'm Kamlaksh, and I'm like this bottle because. So it forces you to make a connection. And I try and get people to give more than one answer. Now, one answer is easy, but giving more than one answer is difficult, right? And I always tell them there is no wrong answer to this, because you're talking about yourself. अगर तुम्हें लगता है ये आप हो, तो वो आप हो, right? There's no wrong answer to this. So this gives people a different way of looking at themselves, because the biggest blind spot we have in our lives is the reflection in the mirror. We don't look at ourselves more creatively. And the third one I do is I put a problem on the table and I say, don't think about it like yourself. Let's put the perspective of, let's say, somebody famous from history on this. Like, it's called the out of the body experience. So, for example, if I'm designing a coffee cafe, right? I tell them, think how Einstein would design it.
Acha.
So now give me ideas. No, so people will say things like, relatives come in for free because Einstein had theory of relativity. Or people with funky hairstyles get discounts because Einstein's hair was wild, right? Or you have a puzzle of the day and anybody solving it can get some freebies, right? So instantly I told this to you in seconds. It just liberates you from your own perspective and allows you to think like somebody else. So these are 3 exercises I have found most useful.
Superb, yeah. You and it comes out very well, right? People, the most quietest person in the room would also kind of give his thought, his ideas, and that kind of builds and creates the spark in people.
Absolutely. No, I must tell you that that's a very important point. See, when you talk about personal stories, even the introverts open up. Even the introverts open up and they'll tell you, because that's a highly personal experience. See, many a times when people are learning some things, they ask, reference material kidhar hai? Kaun se library mein milega? What I firmly believe, all the reference material is within you. You have not accessed it. The moment you start accessing it, you will get richer answers to everything.
We live in a world of 8 seconds and we can attract people in 30 seconds max. Reels, shorts is what the time is asking for. So how do we still kind of create magic in the 30 seconds or like in the blink of an eye? So tell me about it. Like, as a storyteller, what is the thing which you can click on?
So again, that's an
this is for Gen Z, the alphas which are there. So
sure. So and this question comes up a lot. In today's day and
because
time,
it's the future of narrative, I feel like.
Absolutely, time is getting shorter and shorter. Now, as somebody who delves a lot in the world of sport, I'll give you the right example or the right analogy for it that I think is applies to the situation, which is cricket. Cricket pehle test cricket tha, which was 5 days, right? Suddenly it's T20, right? And there is talk that we might even have 6 over tournaments and things like that, right? So kya hua hai? What I always look at is, while cricket might have become lesser in terms of duration, the fundamentals remain the same. You still have to have a sound technique to excel at all forms of the game, right? Virat Kohli excels in every version of the game. And why does he excel in every version of the game? Because his foundation is strong. He's got a sound technique. He gets behind the ball. All those things are correct about him, right? Jasprit Bumrah excels in all forms of the game, right? Again, he knows exactly the value of pitching the ball in the right place. And those fundamentals do not change in cricket or in storytelling, right? Any story you tell, any duration you might have, fundamentally, if it taps into the right insight and has the right message, the duration does not matter that much. That's my firm belief. So in many ways, what this might do is, like, we are, let's say, in the Twitter age of media. At one time, Twitter had only 140 characters that you had to squeeze your message in. But I think it helped you focus more. right? Likewise, this shorter duration is helping you get to the crux of the matter much faster. And I'm saying this because I have a history of working in advertising, where the whole thing is a client might say that there are 50 things about my product which are great, but you have to narrow it down to one or two, and
Right.
ideally one, the unique selling proposition, right? एक चीज क्या है जो लोग याद रखेंगे? What is that one thing? And if you find that one thing, translating it across duration is not so much a problem. So I think it's an opportunity.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. See, this is something I'm asking on a very personal level, because this is the area I always look upon myself. You often mention the spiritual layer of creativity. Do you believe inspiration comes from within or something beyond us? Like we speak in a culture about Ma Saraswati when it comes to having the creativity streak in you. So tell me about it. What is your take on that?
There are two lines from the Upanishads which inspire me.
Hmm.
One is Tattvamasi, that thou art, and the other is Aham Brahmasmi,
Hmm.
which means I am the universe.
Hmm.
And I believe we all are microcosms. That word microcosm comes
Hmm.
from there,
Hmm.
mini cosmos by itself.
Hmm.
Like you have it all within,
Hmm.
right? To me, I think the answers lie within.
Hmm.
Sometimes in the creative process, it does happen that you're gone for a bath and suddenly an idea pops in your head. Why does that happen?
Hmm.
Or you're driving a car and suddenly you come up with an idea out of nowhere. It's like the universe seemed to have give you that idea, right? There is actually a reason why that happens, is because if you're thinking about something, you consciously think about it for a while, and then you turn it over to your subconscious mind,
Hmm.
and your subconscious mind throws up a connection and suddenly it comes up, and then you think like kahan se aa gaya ye idea. But it happens, and you have to learn to develop the ability to sleep over a problem. So think about a problem, sleep, and get up in the morning and just think kuch idea aaya kya. Chances are you might get an idea, or think about a problem for a long time and then just leave it, go out for a jog, do sport, whatever, go out for a movie, come back. When you return to it, you'll find that there'll be something new in your head. So I believe that everything lies within. The moment of the moment when you get an idea is called epiphany.
Hmm.
Okay, the Sanskrit word for it is darshana, which means it's a glimpse of the divine.
So
So
divinity is needed.
yes, it's within you as well.
Yes.
It's very
That's what.
much within us, and we
Yes.
have to find that. We have to find it from some corner of our soul. So I believe it lies within, and the harder you try, the better you become at it. The more spiritual you become. Because see, what is spirituality? I think I define spirituality as the art of being comfortable with yourself, at ease with yourself, at peace with yourself. And I think thinking has a very big role to play in that journey. The better your thoughts, the sharper your thinking, the more evolved you become, the more confident you become of handling any challenge life throws your way, right? So I think thinking and spirituality are very tied.
So much of learning happening in this view. I don't know how much time has passed, but one thing last.
Sure.
If every leader had to tell one story to define their purpose, how should they discover, shape, or live that story? This is one thing which would be there, no? For leaders who are there. People are leaders in many areas today.
Absolutely. So all leaders are great storytellers.
Hmm.
Okay, if they are not storytellers, they can't be leaders.
Hmm.
Because a leader is somebody who, in the most challenging of times, has the ability to make you keep your rational thinking aside and stir you emotionally to follow him or
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
Okay. Interesting case in point. Over 3000, close to 3000 years ago, there's this young Greek boy or Macedonian.
Hmm.
His name is Alexander.
Hmm.
Okay. Alexander उठ के क्या सोचता है, दुनिया को जीतना है. For 21 years, that's a big ambition, right? And how does he go about it? He realizes that he can't do it alone. he needs the help of all the other Greek tribes. And at that time, Greece is very divided. They have Athens, they have Sparta, they have Troy, they are all fighting each other, right? He says, he knows that they fight each other at other times, but there's one insight he has about them, which is, while they might fight each other, they think they are the most civilized culture in the world. The Greeks believe that about themselves. And in fact, they believe everybody else is a barbarian. Okay. So he calls all of them and he says, come march with me and help me make Greece the civilizing agent of the world. So he gives that entire conquest a higher purpose. And that's why they come along with him and march all those miles, right? So every leader has to look deeper into what is it that he's trying to achieve. What nerve, दुखती नर्व्स पे जैसे हाथ रखना है ना, उसने दुखती नर्व्स पे हाथ रखा अलेक्जेंडर ने, कि वो बात सबको भा गई, right? What is that nerve I have to touch in the people who are my followers, which will make them inspired? I will follow you to the end of time, right? So you have to be very clear about what is it that you're trying to achieve and what trigger to push in your followers to make them come along with you. And it varies for different domains, it's different, right? But it's a thing that a leader has to pay most attention to. What is my inspiring purpose? And I think every company at some level has to define that for themselves, because otherwise they are just one of the crowd and people will leave you just because they get a better salary somewhere else. If you're part of something larger, then people will be inspired to stay with you.
Inspiring, imaginative. I don't know how many words I can use for how you put it together. And this is going to help a lot of people to probably write their own stories, tell their stories also. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Vinay, I mean, you are something. Today, Vinay Kanchan reminded us that storytelling is not just a tool, it's a superpower. It shapes brands, builds leaders, and heals hearts. If you're someone who wants to think differently, create more meaning, and leave an impact, start by telling your own story. Thank you for joining us on this creative journey. This was Who's on Air with Kamlak Shetty, where every conversation becomes a narrative worth remembering. So like, share and subscribe if this episode sparked something within you, and tell us in the comments what's the story that shaped you. See you in the next episode, because we're going to tell you a little more, a story about somebody. So here we are. Jai Hind.